Gentlemen, in a world filled with distractions, illusions, and endless temptations, one of the most dangerous traps a man can fall into is aligning his life with a low-value woman. She might wear the mask of charm, play the game of seduction, and pull you into her web, but beneath the surface lies dysfunction, chaos, and emotional warfare. She thrives on drama. At first, it may seem like she's just expressive or passionate. But over time you begin to realize that peace makes her uncomfortable. Stillness feels like boredom to her. If there's no argument, she'll invent one. If things are going smoothly, she'll find a reason to stir the pot. A simple question turns into an interrogation. A disagreement becomes a shouting match, and the worst part, she enjoys it. You can see it in her eyes. The spark she gets when emotions escalate, when voices rise, when tension fills the room. It's almost like she feels alive when there's conflict. This is not an accident. This is conditioning. She's learned that creating chaos gives her power. It keeps people on edge. It allows her to control the narrative by flipping the emotional tone of any situation. You'll start noticing that your energy is always drained after being with her. You dread bringing up anything meaningful because you know it will somehow be twisted into a personal attack. You stop expressing yourself just to keep the peace, but ironically, that only fuels her more. She accuses you of being distant, cold, or uncaring. She wants constant emotional intensity, even if it's negative, because it makes her feel significant. It validates her sense of control. And if you try to walk away from the chaos, she might suddenly switch and become overly sweet or apologetic, just to pull you back into the cycle. This is emotional turbulence disguised as personality. And the longer you stay in it, the more numb you become. You begin to question your sanity. You wonder if you're the problem, but deep down you know. You weren't living in love, you were surviving in war. She lacks emotional self-control. At first, it may come off as passion. Her fiery responses, her intensity when she speaks, the way she gets easily triggered. You might even confuse it with authenticity, thinking she's just being real or vulnerable. But over time, what seemed like emotional honesty starts to show its true nature. Emotional instability. A woman without emotional self-control will take the smallest inconvenience and turn it into a full-blown disaster. If plans change, if you say something she misinterprets, if things don't go exactly how she imagined, her reaction is out of proportion every time. She raises her voice, throws insults, storms out, blocks your number, or suddenly goes cold without warning. You're left confused, trying to piece together what you did wrong, trying to solve a puzzle that keeps changing. The issue isn't the situation. It's her inability to regulate her emotions. She hasn't taken the time to develop inner stability, so she expects the outside world, especially you, to do it for her. When she's upset, it's your job to fix it. When she's anxious, you're expected to calm her. When she's sad, you better drop everything to cheer her up. And if you don't, you'll be labeled insensitive or emotionally unavailable. But emotional maturity means owning your reactions, not projecting them. A low-value woman will always project. She'll use tears to manipulate, anger to punish, silence to control. She uses emotional outbursts as tools of influence, not because she can't help herself, but because it gets her what she wants. If she wants attention, she'll create a scene. If she feels insecure, she'll accuse you of something. If she's not the center of your world for a moment, she'll sabotage just to regain your focus. And it's never her fault. If you bring it up, she'll turn the blame on you. You made me act this way. If you didn't do that, I wouldn't have reacted like this. She sees herself as the victim of her own emotions, and if you're not careful, you'll start seeing her that way too. You'll begin to make excuses for her, to tolerate what you shouldn't, to overlook red flags because she's had a tough past or she's been hurt before. But the truth is, everyone has pain. What defines character is how you manage it. A woman who hasn't learned to master her emotions will eventually try to master yours. She will condition you to react, to tiptoe, to adjust your behavior based on her moods. That's not a relationship, it's an emotional leash. And the longer you stay, the more your sense of stability becomes dependent on her approval, her affection, her permission to feel peace. That's how men lose themselves, not in one big moment, but slowly, one emotional concession at a time. She has no purpose outside of attention. From the outside, she may seem like she has a life. She goes out, she dresses well, she's active on social media, she always has plans. But take a closer look. What drives her? What principles guide her life? What kind of legacy is she building? For a low-value woman, the answer is simple: attention. That's her fuel, that's her mission. Every photo she posts, every story she shares, every interaction she seeks is rooted in one goal: to be seen, desired, and validated by others. If she doesn't get likes, she feels invisible. If no one compliments her, she feels unloved. If no one notices her, she questions her worth. She constantly needs the outside world to reassure her that she matters, because internally she's empty. When you're with a woman like this, your role isn't to connect, it's to constantly perform. You're expected to validate her, praise her, reassure her, and compete with the attention she's chasing from strangers online. You'll feel like you're in a relationship with an audience, not a partner. Everything becomes performative. Dates are photo ops, deep conversations are content fodder. Intimacy is just another way for her to feel powerful and admired, and it's not just about social media. Even in real life, she needs to be the center of every room. She seeks approval from other men, not because she's interested in them, but because it boosts her ego. She flirts subtly, plays coy, posts thirst traps, and pretends it's just for fun. But you'll notice a pattern. She values attention more than respect. She values impressions more than intentions. If you try to talk to her about this, she'll brush it off as insecurity on your part. She'll tell you that you're controlling or jealous, when in reality, you're just recognizing that her entire sense of self is outsourced to other people. A high-value woman builds herself from within. She gains confidence from her discipline, her work, her values. But a low-value woman only feels good when someone is watching her, desiring her, admiring her. And once the attention fades or shifts away from her, she becomes restless, bitter, or even destructive. She'll start picking fights, withdrawing, or seeking attention elsewhere just to refill the void. You'll constantly feel like you're not enough, not exciting enough, not validating enough. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you were never meant to fill that void. That's her responsibility. And if she hasn't done that work herself, she'll expect you and every other man to do it for her. You become just another tool in her endless pursuit of external validation. She disrespects your boundaries. At first it can be subtle. She might tease you in a way that feels off but passes it off as a joke. She may interrupt you when you're speaking, not letting you finish your thoughts. She might push you to do things you've already said you're uncomfortable with, then act like you're being uptight or difficult. These are not innocent behaviors. They're early signs of a woman who does not recognize or respect your individuality. A low val. You woman sees your boundaries as obstacles, not essentials. If you tell her you need space to focus, she'll call you distant. If you say you don't like being yelled at, she'll raise her voice more. If you try to set emotional or physical boundaries, she'll push harder to see how far she can go. What she's really doing is testing your limits, not to understand them, but to see how much she can get away with. She wants control, and the easiest way to gain it is to slowly erode your sense of self-respect. You start to notice how every no you say turns into a negotiation. She refuses to accept your decisions unless they benefit her. If you want to go out with your friends, she'll guilt-trip you. If you're focused on your goals, she'll complain you're not giving her enough attention. If you ask her to stop doing something that hurts you, like flirting with other guys or posting provocative content online, she'll say you're insecure or controlling. Instead of acknowledging your feelings, she attacks them. This creates confusion in your mind. Maybe you are being too rigid. Maybe your standards are too high. That's exactly what she wants you to think. Because once you start second, guessing your own boundaries, she wins. That's how she gains the upper hand. Over time, you'll notice that you're always adjusting, always explaining, always defending why you feel the way you do. Your boundaries become flexible, not because you've changed your mind, but because you're trying to avoid conflict. You begin to shrink, to silence your instincts, to tolerate behaviors you once swore you never would. You do it to keep the peace, to avoid being labeled difficult, and in doing so, you trade your masculinity for temporary harmony. A low val, you woman thrives in this dynamic. She wants you to be uncertain, hesitant, constantly chasing her approval, because a man with weak boundaries is easier to control. Eventually, your world starts to revolve around her moods. You stop doing what's good for you if it makes her uncomfortable. You stop saying what you really think in fear of triggering another episode. You live in response to her instead of in alignment with yourself. And the worst part is, you know something is wrong. Deep inside, your instincts are screaming, but you've become numb to them. That's the cost of letting someone trample your boundaries. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow erosion of self, and the longer you allow it, the more difficult it becomes to reclaim your power. She weaponizes sex and affection. At first, the physical connection might feel magnetic. She knows how to draw you in through touch, eye contact, the right words whispered at the right moment. You feel chosen, wanted, like you're getting a taste of something rare. But soon, you begin to notice a pattern. Her affection is conditional. She gives it when you comply, when you agree, when you do things her way, and when you don't, she withholds it like a punishment. Suddenly, she's distant, uninterested, cold. You're left wondering what you did wrong, scrambling to get back into her good graces. This is not real intimacy. This is manipulation in its most primal form. Sex becomes a bargaining chip. She may withhold it when you set boundaries or when she's trying to force a decision. She may give it only after you've bent to her will, reinforcing the idea that love and approval must be earned through obedience. Even simple affection, like hugs, kisses, kind words, becomes transactional. If she's upset with you, she pulls back entirely. If she wants something from you, she becomes overly sweet, overly physical, until she gets what she wants. This tactic conditions you to associate love with performance. You start to feel that you have to act a certain way, think a certain way, Give in to her demands just to receive basic warmth and connection. What's more insidious is how this behavior affects your identity as a man. Instead of leading, you begin to chase. Instead of standing firm, you start bending. You begin to measure your worth by how pleased she is, how much affection she shows you, how often she chooses to be close to you. You start questioning yourself when she pulls away. You wonder if you're no longer attractive, desirable, or good enough. This is psychological warfare disguised as romance, and if you try to talk to her about this, she'll flip the script. She'll say things like you're just obsessed with sex, or you don't respect my emotions. She turns the conversation into an attack on you, further conditioning you to avoid confrontation. Meanwhile, she continues to use intimacy as a tool to manipulate, to control the rhythm of the relationship. You'll find yourself doing things you don't agree with, just to win back her affection. You'll become reactive, not proactive, desperate, not grounded. Over time, this cycle destroys your masculine core. You lose the ability to set standards because you're too busy chasing validation. You forget how to be still, how to be firm, how to be rooted in your power. You become addicted to the high of her approval and terrified of the low that follows her rejection. This is not love, this is control, and the longer you stay in it, the harder it becomes to recognize who you were before you met her. She doesn't inspire growth, she resents it. One of the clearest signs of a low value woman is that your growth threatens her. She doesn't want you to evolve, not because she doesn't believe in growth, but because your growth exposes her stagnation. In the early stages, she may act supportive. She might tell you she loves your ambition, your drive, your goals. But watch what happens when you actually start becoming better. When you get serious about the gym, when you set boundaries with your time, when you prioritize your purpose. Suddenly she becomes distant, or worse, critical. She might start making sarcastic remarks like, "You think you're better than everyone now?" Or "All you care about is yourself." That's not concern, that's insecurity disguised as criticism. What you're witnessing is a clash of values. You want elevation, she wants control, and the more you level up, the more she feels like she's losing her grip on you. Instead of matching your energy, she tries to contain it. She'll create drama before your big day. She'll get emotional when you're focused. She'll accuse you of changing, of not being the man she fell in love with. But the truth is, she never loved your potential. She loved your compliance. A low-value woman does not celebrate your evolution. She mourns the loss of your dependence on her. She needs you to stay the same because she has not done the inner work to keep up. She doesn't read. She doesn't reflect. She doesn't grow. She spends her time watching others live on screens instead of investing in herself. And when you begin to outgrow that cycle, it threatens the comfort zone she's built around you. She'll try to sabotage your progress, either overtly, by distracting and discouraging you, or subtly, by making you feel guilty for choosing yourself. You'll notice she starts to view your purpose as competition. She'll complain about the time you spend building your business, working on your body, or studying something new. She'll make you feel like your priorities are selfish, like you owe her your energy just because she's in your life. But a woman who truly values you will never demand that you shrink to make her feel secure. She'll grow alongside you, not fight against your rise. When you remain with someone who resents your growth, you begin to internalize that resentment. You might start sabotaging your own progress, delaying your goals, watering yourself down, just to keep her happy. But a man should never apologize for growing. Your purpose is not optional. it's essential. And any woman who makes you feel guilty for prioritizing it is not a partner. She's an anchor. The more you rise, the more she'll try to pull you back into her world of comfort and stagnation. And if you allow it, you'll not only lose your edge, you'll lose your identity. She lives in a world of illusions. A low-value woman often builds her identity on carefully crafted personas rather than on genuine character. She's not grounded in who she is. She's consumed by who she wants others to believe she is. Everything she presents to the world is filtered, edited, curated. Her social media is a highlight reel of fake perfection. Her stories are dramatized versions of victimhood or victory. Never the mundane, never the real. She doesn't share her failures, insecurities, or weaknesses unless she's using them to gain sympathy or manipulate attention. She constantly needs to appear powerful, sexy, desired, independent. But under that exterior, she's unsure, empty, and easily shaken. This woman is often obsessed with appearances. How others perceive her, what they think of her lifestyle, how she compares to her peers. Her energy goes into crafting an image, not building a life. Instead of developing real qualities like empathy, discipline, or loyalty, she invests her time in fashion trends, superficial friendships, and keeping up the illusion that she's always in control, always winning. She may talk about being a queen or having standards, but in practice, she often violates her own values just to feel relevant. She'll claim she wants respect but chase attention. She'll speak of loyalty but flirt with multiple men. She'll preach independence but rely on others to finance her lifestyle. A low-value woman is addicted to validation, and this addiction drives her to wear many masks. She'll be sweet and submissive around high status men, yet act condescending and entitled toward men she deems beneath her. She can be spiritual in the morning, seductive by the afternoon, and emotionally unstable by night, all depending on who she's trying to impress. She doesn't adapt out of flexibility. She shapeshifts out of insecurity. She doesn't know who she really is, so she copies personalities, mimics trends, and mirrors the energy of whoever she's trying to seduce or manipulate. What's dangerous is how convincing this illusion can be. She may seem put together, her confidence might appear real, but if you look closely, everything about her is borrowed, her opinions are recycled, her ambitions are shallow, her conversations are surface level. She avoids depth because depth requires vulnerability, and vulnerability means exposing what she's worked so hard to hide, her emptiness. You'll notice she can't sit in silence, reflect alone, or be without a crowd for long. She constantly needs noise, people, attention, and stimulation. Solitude terrifies her because it brings her face to face with her truth. And her truth is that she hasn't done the work to build a strong internal identity. When you're in a relationship with a woman like this, everything feels unstable. One moment she's devoted, the next she's distant. One moment she's affectionate, the next she's ice cold. You'll never know which version of her you're going to get, because even she doesn't know. You try to connect on a deeper level, but there's no foundation. You ask about her beliefs, and she gives cliché responses. You ask about her goals, and she gives vague dreams with no structure. She speaks of self, love, but behaves in ways that scream self-neglect. She's full of contradictions because her entire persona is a performance, one designed to mask the lack of substance underneath. Eventually, this illusion begins to take a toll on you. You start questioning what's real. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if she ever truly meant the words she said. You begin to feel like you're dating a hologram, someone physically present but emotionally vacant. The relationship becomes a cycle of highs and lows, chaos and calm, because she's constantly reinventing herself in hopes of maintaining your interest. But nothing she does comes from a place of truth. It's all strategy, all survival, all smoke and mirrors. You might try to fix her, to peel back the layers and reach the real her. But the deeper you dig, the more you realize there's no solid core. Just more performance, more masks, more illusions. She lives in a fantasy where appearances are everything, vulnerability is weakness, and reality is too painful to face. And if you stay in that world long enough, it becomes your reality too. You begin to compromise, to adapt, to play along with the performance just to keep the peace. But in doing so, you lose sight of your own truth, your own standards, your own clarity. Because no matter how beautiful an illusion may seem, living in it will eventually cost you your authenticity. She creates confusion through double messages and emotional contradictions. One of the most dangerous patterns a low-val, you woman falls into is weaponizing unpredictability. Her words say one thing, but her actions say another. One day she'll tell you how much she cares about you, and the next day she'll ignore your calls and disappear without explanation. She'll shower you with affection when it suits her, then suddenly grow distant when you try to get closer. And if you ask her what's wrong, she'll deny anything is happening or accuse you of being needy. This back and forth dynamic keeps you unbalanced, second, guessing yourself, and increasingly addicted to trying to decode her behavior. She thrives on creating emotional instability in you, not necessarily because she's calculated, but because she's emotionally immature and doesn't know how to handle healthy, stable love. She confuses intensity with intimacy and chaos with passion. To her, if there's no emotional high, if there's no push and pull, then something must be wrong. So she'll provoke arguments just to feel something. She'll withhold love and affection to regain control. She'll use silence, distance, mood swings, passive-aggressive remarks, or random emotional shutdowns to make you work harder for her validation. But the more you chase that validation, the more control she gains over your emotional world. This cycle creates an unspoken psychological contract. You become responsible for maintaining the connection, while she becomes the gatekeeper of affection. You constantly try to do the right thing, say the right words, offer reassurance, give her more time, adapt your needs to fit her moods, all in hopes that she'll finally be consistent. But that day never comes. Every time you think you've figured her out, she changes again. She keeps you guessing, keeps you pursuing, keeps you in a place of uncertainty, and that's exactly where she wants you, off balance and invested. You may start to feel like you're the problem. After all, she's not always cruel. Sometimes she can be incredibly loving. She'll apologize just enough to keep you holding on. She'll share just enough vulnerability to make you think there's depth. She'll throw you crumbs of affection that feel like a feast because you've been starving for clarity and connection. But make no mistake, this isn't a relationship. It's an emotional roller coaster, and the longer you ride it, the more it warps your sense of normal. Over time, your emotional baseline shifts. What once would have felt like obvious red flags, hot and cold behavior, withdrawal, guilt, tripping, now feels like minor turbulence in an otherwise passionate relationship. You become desensitized to inconsistency. You learn to walk on eggshells. You find yourself obsessively analyzing her texts, her tone, her moods, because nothing ever feels stable or straightforward. And when you try to bring up your concerns, she either deflects, gaslights, or plays the victim. Suddenly, the conversation becomes about how you don't understand her, how you're always accusing her, how you're the one who's too emotional. This emotional confusion is not just toxic, it's exhausting. It wears down your mental clarity, your self, confidence, and your emotional strength. It turns you into a version of yourself you don't recognize, hesitant, anxious, always seeking reassurance. You lose the ability to relax in the relationship because you're always preparing for the next shift, the next mood swing, the next episode of emotional distance. And the worst part is, part of you starts to believe this is what love looks like, because she's conditioned you to associate uncertainty with excitement and dysfunction with depth. But this isn't love. It's emotional dependency crafted through inconsistency. A healthy woman brings clarity, not confusion. She communicates rather than manipulates. She creates space for trust, not suspicion. But a low, Val, you woman uses your emotional need for connection as leverage. She knows that if she gives you just enough to keep you hopeful, you'll keep trying. You'll keep giving, you'll keep shrinking, not because you're weak, but because you're human, and she's built her entire relational style on exploiting exactly that. She turns love into a maze, not a mirror. And while you're busy trying to find your way back to her, you slowly forget the path that leads back to yourself. She doesn't inspire growth. She resents it. A low Val, you woman may admire your potential in the beginning, but once that potential begins to take shape, once your habits improve, your body transforms, your money grows, your mindset sharpens. She doesn't celebrate your evolution, she questions it. She doesn't see your success as a mutual win, she sees it as a threat to her control. In her world, comfort is power. She feels safe when she knows where you are, who you've always been, what your limitations are. The moment you start to rise above the version of yourself she once knew, her support fades. She might not say it directly, but her behavior will speak volumes. She becomes colder, less enthusiastic about your plans, dismissive of your ambitions. If you spend time working on your goals, she accuses you of neglecting her. If you make new connections or upgrade your environment, she questions your loyalty. She doesn't want you to become better. She wants you to stay predictable, manageable, familiar. This resentment doesn't always appear as open hostility. Often it's passive and subtle. She may make sarcastic remarks like, "You've changed," or "So now you think you're too good for everyone." She may interrupt your focus with emotional demands or create unnecessary drama on the day of your most important meetings or moments. If you have a disciplined routine, waking up early, hitting the gym, avoiding distractions, she'll challenge it, mock it, or try to pull you away from it under the guise of needing attention. To her, yourself, discipline is a mirror reflecting her lack of growth. Rather than rising to meet you, she seeks to dim your light so hers doesn't look so dim by comparison. And if she's truly threatened, she'll try to psychologically sabotage your momentum by subtly planting seeds of doubt. Are you sure that's what you want? What if you fail? You're working so hard, are you even happy? At first, you might dismiss these comments as concern. You'll think she's just looking out for you. But soon you'll recognize the pattern. Her concern only arises when your focus shifts away from her. It's not that she doesn't believe in you. It's that she doesn't believe in herself. She hasn't done the emotional, spiritual, or mental work to evolve, so your progress exposes her stagnation. And instead of using it as motivation to grow, she resents it because it threatens the dynamic where she holds the emotional leverage. A low Val, you woman only feels powerful when you're playing small. The moment you begin to stand tall, firm in your purpose, clear in your path, she feels she's losing grip. She's no longer the center of your universe, and that scares her. So she'll create friction to slow you down, guilt to weigh you down, and emotional confusion to keep you distracted. You might find yourself second, guessing your ambitions just to keep the relationship stable. You'll shrink your goals so she feels secure. You'll stop celebrating your wins because she downplays them. You'll stop talking about your dreams because she doesn't believe in them. And over time, this dynamic erodes your confidence. You begin to associate your growth with relationship tension, as if success always comes at the cost of peace. But it's not success that's the problem. It's her inability to grow with you. A high Val, you woman sees your ambition and joins you on the journey. A low Val, you woman sees it and begins to compete with it. This is where many men fall into a dangerous trap. They confuse love with obligation. They think they owe her their comfort because she's been there from the beginning. They believe staying small is a form of loyalty. But real love doesn't ask you to dim your light. It doesn't resent your transformation. It doesn't fear your potential. If a woman cannot celebrate your growth, she is not your partner. She is your limitation. The longer you stay in that space, the more you begin to internalize her resentment as self-doubt. You hesitate, you slow down, you rationalize your stagnation because you've attached your identity to a relationship that only thrives when you're not. The truth is, growth reveals everything. It reveals who is truly for you and who was only for your comfort zone. It shows you who claps when you rise and who flinches when your wings spread. And a low Val, you woman will always flinch, because your evolution demands her own, and if she's not ready to meet it, she'll do everything she can to stop you from moving forward. She'll hide behind emotional arguments, pretend to be a victim, and act as though your success is a betrayal. But the only betrayal is betraying yourself to keep her comfortable. Your mission in life is not to make someone else feel secure at the cost of your own elevation. And the moment you realize that, you'll see her resentment not as rejection, but as redirection toward the man you're meant to become. Gentlemen, you are not born to tolerate chaos, confusion, or emotional manipulation. You were built for purpose, for discipline, for greatness. A low Val, you woman will test your strength, not to make you better, but to break your spirit and weaken your clarity. If you recognize these signs in your relationship, understand this. Walking away is not weakness, it's wisdom. Protect your energy, protect your peace, and most importantly, protect your future. Because the wrong woman doesn't just cost you love, she costs you *yourself. *choose wisely.